Hello everybody, welcome to All Sports Weekly episode 36. I am Trevor and with me this week is Lenny. Hello.
G'day.
Hey buddy, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. Yourself?
Good, thanks. Episode 36, you're entering into the 3 appearance club.
Who is in this club, Trevor?
Oh, there's a few. It's quite an elite group. I can tell you who's not in it. There's a guy called Brendan Brimacombe, not sure if you've heard of him.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, he's knocking on the door. Literally, I think he's down there knocking on the door. But, it's quite an elite group. And you want to be careful, mate. You're now in contention for the roundtable end-of-year review.
I might have to do some prep for that one too.
You might. Just make history and do some prep. Everybody, we're on YouTube, we're on SoundCloud, and we're on Spotify. Please like the video, share the video, and so on. Okay. We're going to go around the grounds in a minute and catch up on a few different things, but in the short term, Lenny, what have you been watching this week, sir?
Newborn. That's what I've been watching.
Newborn. Haven't heard of that sport.
Not a whole lot. A little bit of T20.
Yeah.
Other than that, but just keeping up with.
Busy boy.
With the little one, but the T20 is not my favourite form of cricket, as you well know. But it's it's still a World Cup, so I watch a little bit. And
some interest there.
I did see Australia trounce Bangladesh. That was sort of the start of getting our net run rate up and so forth. So
had to win well, and we did.
But it was men versus boys. Wow. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. Well, the main focus will be that World Cup, which we'll get to in a minute. Just to start though, we'll go around the grounds, just stuff that I've been keeping an eye on. So this morning, the Mexico Grand Prix has just ended, and Max Verstappen has won this race in a pretty comprehensive victory. 16 to 17 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, but just looked good, led for most of the race. Started third on the grid, and then just first corner, it was great. Hamilton, not a guy, as we mentioned last week, who enjoys getting second, but he did pretty well to hang on because the Red Bull cars looked faster, and the other Red Bull driver, Sergio Perez, got third place. So he's the Mexican getting a podium in Mexico. Mate,
Right.
they partied.
Right.
Yeah, it was obviously only third place, but it looked like he'd won the Grand Prix, and the crowd went crazy.
Was it like Ricardo type doing shoeies and so forth, or?
I didn't actually hang around till the pomp and ceremony. I was just watching them when he got out of the car, but it was pretty cool. Mexicans know how to party. So Verstappen has extended his lead in the Drivers' Championship, Hamilton with the second place. There's 4 races to go, and the next one is in Brazil, which is another altitude track like Mexico. There's a bit of thinking that Red Bull will do well at that as well. The current points, the first and second, Verstappen's on 312.5 points, Hamilton 293. So Verstappen extends his lead, but it's such a small lead. Like one car failure, do not finish, would just change everything. So it's going to go down to the wire.
That's good.
Hey, good season in Formula 1 happening at the moment. Rugby. The Wallabies, they were looking good. They won 5 games in a row for the first time in 13 years. They have now been beaten by Scotland overnight, 15 to 13 at Murrayfield. A pretty dour game from what I could see. I must confess I did not watch this game. Scotland, we talked a bit about last week about the availability of players. Australia are missing some key players, so there is that. And as of this week, the Northern Hemisphere teams have been given the window to have their full squad. Having said that, we wouldn't like to be being beaten by Scotland too often. I think the Scottish won't care that we're missing a few. They'll take it.
Did we have Quady Cooper playing?
No.
Right. Injury or selection?
There's a big thing going on between club and country, and it's actually because of COVID, and it's been rescheduled, and these players are contractually obliged to play in Japan, and in Japanese culture they take a very dim view of you not being there for pre-season and so forth. If you want to play there,
don't diss your employer.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a tough one, but at the end of the day, Scotland have beaten Australia 15 to 13, leading 7-3 at half time. A penalty in the 68th minute. It's classic Northern Hemisphere. There you go. Okay, so the Wallabies' winning streak has been broken. Boxing, we've got a big result yesterday with Canelo Alvarez, who has stopped Caleb Plant in the 11th round with a TKO. The big deal about this one is this is the unification fight now, where Canelo joins a pretty elite list of boxers. He's now got all 4 belts in that super middleweight division. That's no mean feat. It's only been done 6 times in the modern era since the WBA started recognising these things. I think it was 95, 96 approximately. It's a big deal. He's basically cleaned out the 4 divisions. He's the best pound for pound fighter in the world. He's smart, he's fast, he's got guile, he's unstoppable. I don't know who's going to beat this guy. That's probably the only thing, is he's run out of challenges maybe. I mean, I know there's some guys who disagree with that, but an absolute star. Got the 4 belts if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Don't know what happens after this, so yeah. Anyway, knockout in the 11th round. And the World Series. We spoke last week, Game 5 was about to happen and Atlanta lost that, and there was Game 6 and 7 were going to Houston, and there was a bit of a thinking that Houston might be right up for this. No. Atlanta came out and won 7-0 in Game 6, absolutely silenced the crowd, played all over them, flogged them, 7-0. The World Series has gone to the Atlanta Braves 4-2, and that is that for another year. And get into any baseball there, Len?
No, but on the issue of just, away from sport just for a second, Houston with that concert. 8 people.
Horrible.
Young people, children, half of them. And that was in Houston, I heard. That was just 2 days ago or a day ago, so I don't think that would affect sport, I guess, but...
No, this was before that as well.
Oh, was it? Okay. Right.
But, that one they still had the show, well, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Awful. Okay, that's around the grounds, guys. Cricket is our number 1 thing, Lenny. You big T20 fan, as we know.
My favourite shot's the rant.
Yeah, is it? Okay.
No helmet.
It's good when it works. It's not so good when you get out. So the T20 World Cup, we're down to the nitty gritty now. The semi-finals are almost upon us. Australia has managed to come second. And as you sort of said earlier on, that it was a good, strong win. We had to beat Bangladesh well, and we did. Got the net run rate up above what South Africa had. South Africa, to their credit, did beat England in the last game.
Wow.
So they did...
That's one I didn't hear about.
They did beat England and made us earn it with a game against West Indies, which we had to win, and thankfully we did.
So the thing that got us ahead was we beat South Africa?
We beat South Africa.
That levels out us losing to England and then beating
That's
England.
right.
Right, so net run rate, yep.
And then that convincing win against Bangladesh where we flogged them. So we finished with a net run rate of 1.2 and South Africa was 0.79. So that's not much in it. Like, it was tight.
Did you see that Bangladesh game?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you see some of the dismissals? It was like... One of their left-handers, Josh Hazelwood, comes in, and the guy, it was a base, he didn't move, he got up a little bit, but he just played with the bat, straight bat, hit the middle of the bat, but he just didn't bring it forward, like, early enough, and it just ran off the face, down onto the stumps, and you just went, oh man, like, that's... Yeah, there's big boys and little boys there. It's, Bangladesh used to be a lot better, but in short form, but something's not right.
Hazelwood, before this tournament, was not really considered a T20 bowler, but he's been pretty good.
Yeah. If there's a little bit in the pitches, he's definitely good.
Yeah.
If on some of those dry subcontinent tracks, generally, even the best bowlers, Cummins and all that, they'll just get smacked everywhere. It's about a game of batsmen.
Yeah. So going into this week, we were talking about Justin Langer's selections being a little bit, dicey. And what happened was Mitch Marsh has come in to number 3. Steve Smith has dropped down to number 5. So Steve Smith's held his spot, but gone down to 5. So the way that they've done this for the last 2 games, I think this is what they're going to stick with, is Warner, Finch, Marsh, Maxwell, Smith, and then Stoinis with the bowlers to follow. Do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as I go with T20, I think it's good. I probably would have gone earlier on doing something with Warner and Finch, like moving one of them on, just because they're both getting old at the same time. But I think T20 is a very flexible sort of a game. You can afford to lose a bit of experience in a short time. But coming into this World Cup, I can see why they kept both of them too. I mean, Finch is the captain. Warner has proven many years over limited overs that he can perform. So, yeah.
So Warner, there was a journalist called Malcolm Knox, who's a cricket writer. You might have heard of him. wrote a pretty scathing report about Warner in the lead up to this game against West Indies, that he's out of form and he's 35 and that basically he's done. Warner has saved his best form for that game, it would appear. He's come out and got 89 off 56 balls and really played very well and just made a little bit of a statement. The thing is, can he do it again? Mitch Marsh with 53, he's justifying his spot in my view.
Yeah.
And, so a bit of form at the right time. At the end of the day, Australia isn't regarded as a powerhouse in 2020. We've made the semi-finals, so I'd say that's a pass mark. And now everything else is a bonus, right?
Yeah.
Do you give us a shot?
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I think we're slowly adapting to the T20 game. I think Australia's had a good enough player roster to choose from for many years, but we've been very reluctant to let go of our stars who want to play all three forms, who aren't necessarily the best T20 players. Steve Smith, etc. Quite a few others. And so
Gavin said something similar last week.
Right. Okay,
whereas we've got T20 players, but they don't necessarily get picked.
There's an absolute feast of them in the BBL, in the Big Bash, I should say, and it's, mate, get them in there. It's all about keeping enough experience in your team though, and a continuity in your roster. But
yeah,
I think having Marsh there after the openers are going okay, of course. Marsh at 3, Steve Smith at 5 to save the collapse. I think.
Yeah, that's right. And I like Smith in that number 5 role actually, because if the top order gets skittled, which can easily happen in T20, you've got that little bit of a firewall, I guess.
Make sure you get 130 at least or 140 rather than collapsing for 80.
For 80 and then you're done, yeah. With the bowling, Zampa has got 11 wickets, which you'd expect your spinner to play well, and that's what's happened. And Hazelwood, as we mentioned, with 8 wickets, and Stark with 7. And I like Stark in the T20. I think he's good, but yeah, Hazelwood's been a little bit of a nice surprise. And with all of this happening from the Australian point of view, the breaking news last night is that New Zealand has beaten Afghanistan. So what that means is, even though there's still a game tonight where India are going to play Namibia, it's basically a dead rubber. New Zealand are second in that group, with Pakistan number 1, and India are out. How good. I can't hide my smile on that one. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of blokes.
It all happened at the beginning when Pakistan beat India. That set the ball rolling.
And then New Zealand.
Yeah, well, that's right. About Pakistan-India rivalry is pronounced. That got Pakistan up, India down on the back foot, and then, like I said, New Zealand coming in to do it as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and heads will roll in India, of course, but how much? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't comment, but I just think that there'll be a few, interesting scenes when India get back home. But Pakistan now the only undefeated team, with England losing. Look the goods, and unfortunately they will play Australia, and New Zealand are going to go and play England. So let's just have a quick look at those semi-finals. As I mentioned, England and New Zealand. Now the first one, I remember the 50 over World Cup, England-New Zealand final. New Zealand robbed.
Completely jipped.
Not bouncing the ball. I'm talking about two umpires on the field, a third match official, and a match referee who all don't know the rules and allow England to get an extra run and go to a super over, and they lose the World Cup. That's robbed. New Zealand, now I'm not known for being a New Zealand fan, but for the size of New Zealand and the size of cricket in that country, were runners-up in the 50 over final, as we just mentioned. They're the current Test match champion under that new format. Yeah. They've got a semi-final here in the T20. They've got to be the biggest underachiever David and Goliath story out there, surely.
Their cricket has always been above their, like you said, their population, but even when they've gone not so well, for their population, they are still going well, but at the moment they're way above everyone. Like seriously, they actually play well. They're handling themselves sort of okay on the dry, dusty tracks that don't suit.
Yeah.
But they clean up better than England and Australia and South Africa on the pitches that give you a lot of seam and movement and swing, and so yeah.
Because they're not conditions that New Zealanders would be particularly suited to.
They like damp wickets. And
they do, like English conditions. So
that's right.
England are the number 1 seeds, and I'm sure the money would be with them, but I just wouldn't write New Zealand off in this one. And that's happening at basically midnight Wednesday night Thursday morning our time.
Right.
And then the following day on midnight is Australia and Pakistan. Now, Pakistan, like I said, only undefeated team, surely would be like to think they've got us. Australia will all need to play well. Every one of those players we've been talking about has to click, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Zampa being an obvious choice there. The Pakis will play him well, and being your main spinner, the pitch will be important. A lot of things will have to fall into place, definitely.
Yeah.
Our bowlers, as long as the Pakis can't launch them, like you said, Hazelwood, Cummins, those sort of guys, if they get on top, it could be an Australian win. But Pakis have got the form. So
I think we'll be up against it. Pakistan look very good, but anything can happen. It's T20, so bring it on and let's see what happens.
The Big Show could do something, Drew.
The Big Show owes us a big show. All right, now separate to all of this, we've got a Test match series coming with the Ashes there, mate. There's a bit of a selection headache with Will Pucovski getting another concussion in domestic cricket. His 11th concussion. I don't understand. It must be a technique issue at this point. Comment from last week from a friend of the show, Lucas Osborne. With Will Pucovski's head in doubt in more ways than one. His opening spot for the first Test is no certainty. He's got yet another concussion. He's probably playing his first Shield match for the season. Khawaja's back-to-back Shield tons have propelled him into contention for the first Test. Do you subscribe to that view? I assume Pucovski's not playing, which I think is a fair assumption.
I think it's almost been confirmed that the first 2 or 3 Tests he might not play. Purely because concussion is taken so seriously now. They don't want to risk it. It's an ongoing issue. He's a young man. But that's that aside.
And bowlers must be bowling short pitch to him, knowing that he's got this weakness.
If you've got a weakness in any part of your game, your bowler's job is to seek it out. So in Test matches, the long form, definitely. Going back to the opening, Khawaja, I think I'd agree with the comments. He's an experienced head at the top of the order, and to me, he's a like for like for David Warner. He's experienced, but he's in form. In the long form, Warner is out of form. In the long part of the game,
So you drop Warner or you keep Warner?
I drop Warner and I have Khawaja there. I think in Australia his statistics are unbelievable. He averages over 60 or something in Australia, I'm pretty sure.
Who bats with Khawaja?
That's where I throw a young person in. I haven't seen Harris lock down a spot. Joey Burns has had a few runs at it.
Joey Burns, I think, is done.
Yeah, I just don't think they're the ones for the job. I'd throw a bit of a dark horse in there. This is very Queensland bias here, but I'd go Bryce Street.
Yeah, well, he's been playing well. I was waiting for you to talk about Matty Renshaw.
He's in my team.
Okay.
But he's not opening. He hasn't shown enough recent form, and he's been batting 5 a lot for Queensland, so yeah.
With Smith and Labuschagne being very solid, the two positions that seem to be in contention is the opening spot and maybe number 5.
1, 2 and 5.
I would argue that Khawaja, if you do pick him, would probably be more suited at 5.
Possibly, yeah.
But I don't think that's the position that'll be offered to him. I feel like if he gets the gig, it'll be to open. Yeah. But if you asked him, hey, you choose one of these, I think I know which one he'd choose.
He's actually really versatile. That's partly what cost him the job way back in the day. He's overseas form and being able to play anywhere in the top 6. But his form, his best stats in playing for Australia were opening from memory. He batted 3, got tried at 3 a few times.
He did get tried at 3.
And he was nowhere near as effective. So 5 could work. I think he goes better at 5 than he does at 3, but 1 and 2, he's definitely at his best.
So if you're picking the team, you've got Khawaja opening?
Yep, and with Street.
With Street?
Yep.
And then I'm assuming you've got Labuschagne and Smith?
Correct.
And then you've got?
This is really open, but I put Renshaw in.
Renshaw.
Purely because we need a young stroke maker who has some background and he fits all those boxes. His current form would not necessarily justify it. That's where there's a few other people out there. But currently I think we've got Travis Head doing it, and I think he's got obvious weaknesses in his game.
Me too.
He gets put in there because he can bowl some handy left arm spin from memory.
You can't pick him on his bowling.
If we're going to pick Cameron Green possibly at 6 as the 3rd seamer or 4th seamer, you don't need. You want a batsman at 5. You really want a batsman. So
I think Cameron Green looks great. I know he's only young, but I think he's the future.
Yeah.
And then that gets us to number 7, which is Tim Payne. Now Tim Payne is 36 and is recovering from neck surgery in the off season. He says he's played a domestic game and pulled up pretty sore and sorry.
Right.
He's expected to play and captain, but surely, is this his last summer? Australian summer?
Yeah, to be honest, I think
36.
after last summer, I think that should have been. There was such a shock thing against India to lose. So it could be a forced hand if the injury stops him, and the backup keeper plays really well. I think there's 3 or 4 keepers that are chomping at the bit to take over his spot. Alex Carey, you've got young Inglis. I don't know if he's a bit on the same.
Carey looks good to me.
Yeah, Carey looks the first in line. Jimmy Pearson, Queensland again. He's made a couple of hundreds and he regularly gets them out of trouble. There's enough, and they're really good keepers too. You don't lose anything in the keeping, but you gain good batting consistently. So.
Well, we'll get through this week with the T20, and then it'll be all eyes on that test format and that Ashes, mate. It's going to be exciting. First test was it December 8th.
Yeah. And I would throw one more bowling there, just quickly, and that is Stark should never have been test bowler for a long time. He should be out. You'd have a third seamer who can tie down and give support like a Nessa or a Jai Richardson or someone else like that. And possibly if Lyon does not get some form going through the series, I would have Schwepson going in there.
Yeah.
But you can't put Schwepson in as an attacking bowler while Stark is there.
And England hate leggies.
Yes.
England hate leg spin. So. And just before we change from cricket, just a feel-good story is that West Indies are going to tour Pakistan in December for a white ball series. It's just 3 T20s and 3 ODIs. But just in light of what's been going on in Pakistan for a long time now, it'd just be great if this could happen with crowds. It goes well, and I think credit to West Indies to sign up for that, and I think that's really good. And
hope it goes ahead.
Fingers crossed it goes ahead. Now we're going to quickly talk about Premier League. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because Man U are in a bit of trouble here, guys. After getting spanked by Liverpool, we calmed a few nerves last week, but now we've been beaten 2-0 at home to Man City. The thing is, we played badly. Man U had 32% of possession.
Wow.
They had one corner in the game, which was in the last minute, which is basically an indictment. They had one shot on target. Not to mention that the 2 goals that were conceded, one was an own goal and one was a bad keeper mistake. So there's trouble. I don't know if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to survive this week. I feel like come tomorrow or the next day you might hear something there.
Right.
It's not just losing, it's the plan, it's the way they're playing. It's like there's a lack of cohesion, there's a lack of a game plan.
Are they beating the lesser likes quite well?
They're currently running 6th or 7th, and they had a draw in Europe midweek and so forth, but it's not going to fly.
They're a top-tier team that should be...
And they've strengthened their squad. They've got the players this year. They need to be playing better than they are. So, and the other news, I guess, is that Liverpool have been beaten this morning by West Ham 3-2. Liverpool were the last undefeated team. That is no more. 3-2 to a pumped-up West Ham at the stadium down there in East London. Great atmosphere. David Moyes, also the West Ham coach. Man U discarded David Moyes as a manager a couple of years ago. It might be a little bit ironic because I don't know. I feel like we might like him back. We'll see. But anyway,
double the salary. I'll come back.
Chelsea's still on top of the table, guys. Just want to give a quick shout out to Arsenal, which is not in my nature, but Arsenal started the season with 3 huge losses. Their own fans were booing them, and Mikel Arteta's job looked basically cooked. They've gone 7 Premier League games unbeaten. They've beaten Spurs and Leicester. They now sit 5th. They're just outside the top 4. They've turned it around. They look good. And they haven't lost a game now for 7 weeks. They're going to Liverpool next week. Bit of a turnaround for Arsenal, and looks like people might have written them off a little early. So,
I see one of their losses was Brentford or something?
Brentford in the first round, yeah.
Was that a few weeks ago?
That was round 1. Yeah.
I think I tipped that, but it was only as a joke against our friend Leroy, who put other bets on, and I went against him, and it was an upset.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Transitioning to NFL. Now, quickly going to read a comment. Friend of the show, Grant Archibald, was quickly talking about last week. Ben Simmons. Once Ben Simmons starts playing again, which won't be for the 76ers and may not be till next season, everyone will be back on the Ben bandwagon. He goes on, I'll sort of cut this down a little bit, but basically I'm not sure about that. Grant, I'm not saying he's done, and I agree with you, he won't play for the 76ers. I won't be on the bandwagon. And then he goes on to ask me, what are my thoughts on NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers? He has been confirmed to have COVID. He said he was immunised, and that is not the case. And they're playing Kansas City right now. At the time of going to press, that game is on. So we're going to talk about NFL, and this leads into the big story of the week, which is Aaron Rodgers. So, if you don't know, one of the highest profile players in the game, a very highly paid quarterback, who basically said at the start of the year he was immunised. I think it was semantics. I think he was deliberately vague and duplicitous in that, saying he was immunised. It's now come, like Grant has mentioned, that he's got COVID, and he says he is not vaccinated. He is immunised. Okay?
I'm resistant.
Yes. So when asked how he's immunised, he's cited some homeopathic measures, and basically he has refused to take the coronavirus vaccines. He has been therefore in breach of protocols right through the year. Thoughts?
I just toe the line. I want to go in and, I'm being paid a mozza. I want to go through it. You should be doing the right thing. If you disagree with it, too bad, mate. I'm pretty cutthroat with this stuff. So many people have got to do certain things they don't like doing for their employment. Just do it.
He spent the off-season holding the Packers to ransom. He basically is a very entitled guy. I mean, I don't think this is a hot take. There'll be one friend of the show who won't agree with this, but he's shown over a long period of time that it's all about him. He's now got on this interview with McAfee, and it's unbelievable. Kyle actually linked it to me. He's described himself as, quote, being in the crosshairs of the woke mob. He is going to be, in his eyes, the victim of cancel culture. And he's even quoted Martin Luther King and said, as the great Martin Luther King said, everybody has a moral obligation to stand up for rules that are unjust. He's comparing himself to... He's comparing his struggles to the struggles of black Americans fighting to end segregation. He has the best doctors available in the world. He's taking, in his words, he's taking his medical advice from Joe Rogan.
You can have a lot of money, doesn't make you smart.
And this is the sort of thing that can derail a season. I don't care how good you think he is. He's acting like a prat. He's been misleading people, and it's all about who knew what when. What did the Packers know? When did they know it? It's a huge story.
I think there's got to be a way of testing, make sure people have, with any government scrutinising, saying if you're a sports person or in whatever position that you need to be vaccinated, you get vaccinated and it gets logged in somewhere officially, a register. So there's no rubbish in the media, mate. We just want to know you're vaccinated, you're participating, you're not, you're out.
The rules apply to everybody.
Yeah.
Lenny's lashings. What are you going to lash out about, Len?
This is nothing from what's happening now. It's more about the future, which is something it's been building for years. It's the Olympics. It's, we've got Winter Olympics coming up, China. We've got other things like Qatar and Russia in the summer. But I'll just stay on China. Just, it's not so much a lashing, it's more of a big concern about what's going to happen out of this. How much, I'm just worried about what's going to happen. How much will China look after the visitors they get? They will want this to be really good. I just hope they don't ruin the Olympics, like the Winter Olympics, for the sake of their prestige or their whatever. I know the people over there don't want, they want COVID zero, and it's going to be hard to keep COVID zero when you've got an Olympics.
Too bad they didn't want COVID zero at the end of 2019.
There's so much hypocrisy there. But anyway, so that's my lashing.
1 hot minute.
Alright, hit me.
Does Australia lack depth in test match fast bowlers?
No.
Is there a bias in cricket that allows players from New South Wales to get picked for Australia?
Yes.
Can the likes of Anderson and Broad trouble Australia in the Ashes this year?
Yes.
Same old though. They've been around forever.
They're quality bowlers. As long as their injuries are not an issue, and as long as their pitches are not roads, then every bowler has a chance. Both teams have decent bowlers, I think.
Should Steve Smith be the next captain for Australia?
Yes.
Are the Redcliffe Dolphins wise to chase Kalen Ponga?
For the right money, yes.
Should Novak Djokovic be allowed to play in the Australian Open if he quarantines?
Whoa, That's a curly one.
Yes or no?
No.
That's all we got time for. Appreciate you coming on.
No,
I appreciate you watching. Have a lovely week.